Hello, and welcome to Afternoon Tea with Karen and abortion research. I was going to do a video on duck shooting as it is the season. However, I came across some footage of Georgie Purcell from the Animal Justice Party that's more suited to my abortion research playlist. And in regards to post abortion maths, it does appear to be a symptom of trauma. Not that Georgie's suffering from it.
So this story came to my attention because my brother's a bow hunter, my older brother, and he is annoyed because there is a stripper politician who is banning bow hunting in Australia. So I want to share a little bit of this info with you.
This has fucking pissed me off. Today I found out that this woman, Georgie Purcell, is a legit politician in the Australian government, and she is one of the people who is fighting to have bow hunting banned in Australia. Now, I hate politics. I fucking hate it. It's bullshit. I get it. But the scary part is that these people are actually succeeding, and as of December 1st, this year in 2024, bow hunting is getting banned in South Australia. Now, that's a scary thought considering mankind has been bow hunting since the dawn of fucking time, and now...
So you get the point with that, and it's probably one of the most Australian things that you'll ever watch. But let's have a little bit more of a look at our friend Georgie Purcell here and what she thinks about political matters.
I've been pregnant when I didn't want to be, and I've accessed abortion multiple times in my lifetime. Not once that I accessed abortion in my life was it easy, was it accessible, could I necessarily afford it? And that's because abortion right now in this state isn't physically accessible, and it is absolutely not affordable. I will never forget how confronted I was when I found out in my early 20s and then again later in my life that I was pregnant. I paid $500 for a surgical abortion around 10 years ago. It has almost doubled in that time in a cost of living crisis. The cost of a surgical private abortion is now around $1,000, and it is a price women choose to pay over languishing on a public wait list for up to a month or more because there are no spots for them. There are no spots for them on the public providers. And they are faced with staying in a situation that they don't want to be in, or somehow finding the way to cough up $1,000. Despite it not being easy, all of my abortion experiences were actually still ones of great privilege. I was in an unfortunate circumstance, but I did have the money to pay for private care and to access a quick surgery, the ability to take time off work, the ability to travel. I wasn't burdened by having to make childcare arrangements, which is very, very important to note that a large proportion of people who access abortion in this state are already parents themselves. And I didn't have to hide something from those required to care for me. But many other women in this state just cannot say the same thing. It is leaving them with nowhere to go and nowhere to turn. And in the worst case scenarios, they go to unsafe choices. There are countless others like me who have navigated this system. It is a nightmare. Nobody wants an abortion, but for many of us, it is a reality in our lifetimes. You might not know it, but someone you know, someone you love, they have had an abortion. And we are just asking the government to please listen to us.
So the meat and potatoes of this, I think, is that she is from the animal rights activist group, and she is the youngest member of the Victorian Parliament. And she campaigns on saving ducks, but also campaigns on having abortions for free.
And she's also campaigning to force all hospitals in Victoria, including the religious ones and including the country ones that have a skeleton theatre staff, to perform abortions. No healthcare provider in this state should be operating on ideology over ethics. I wonder if she says to her boyfriend, oh, it's just an ideology. I'm not taking your religion very seriously. She goes out with Josh Burns from the Labor Party. She'd make a good Jewish wife, wouldn't she? Anyway.
So, you firsthand, I guess, someone that's been in that system of abortion, could you just briefly just give us a recap, I guess, because some people may not have seen the first interview, about what it was like to have 2 abortions?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first abortion, I had just turned 25 and I had just recovered from a 6-year battle with anorexia in and out of hospital. And then when I fell pregnant, I really believed I wasn't ready to have a child. So I chose to have the abortion, fully aware of what I was doing and fully able to, because at the time WA had decriminalised abortion. So I had full access and I waited the 12 weeks. And then I had the abortion with the full support of the dad, the father. He wasn't defending his baby in any way. He'd already had previous abortions with other partners and already had a child. And then I fell pregnant again when I was 27. And again, I chose to have an abortion, even though the first abortion had, I thought I had recovered from any mental health struggle that the eating disorder had on me. And the abortion just catapulted me straight back into that hell. And despite that, by the time when I turned 27, I had turned to heroin and other drugs to kind of escape or try and numb myself from the reality of what I had done. I had to make a choice then when I fell pregnant again between my coping mechanism, which at that point was heroin, to avoid reality, and getting clean and protecting my second child, which I didn't do. So I chose drugs over my second child. And that's the 2 in a very quick nutshell. But the impact is ongoing. I don't think any woman who has had an abortion can honestly say that they remain unaffected in no matter how much healing and freedom you get from the trauma and the pain. And, I reflect every year around my birthday, because that was when I first found out I was pregnant for the first time. And then you calculate, you go, 9 months later. So then you think later on, how old would my baby be now? And I would have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old now. But I don't, because I killed them. So it's, even though I don't have the absolute turmoil that I had, because I have faced what I've done and I've sought the freedom and the healing and the forgiveness. But there's still that loss and that emptiness, and that's what they don't talk about, and that's what they don't prepare you for, is that first off, you've got to face that emptiness, which was what pierced me as soon as I had the abortions, was just this piercing emptiness of the removal of the life that was there, and all of a sudden it wasn't. And it's such a fatal final decision that you can't take it back, no matter how much you wish or will or pray or hope for it to. You can never bring that child back. And I think the reality of that pushes people one way or another. I think it pushes people either to become so pro-abortion to try and make themselves feel better for what they've done, and to try and justify what they've done, and to try and convince themselves that they've done the right thing and that it wasn't what it really is. Or it pushes them into a corner and they internalize it and they stay in that shame and that pain and that trauma, because our society is just full suffocatingly with the narrative that we should celebrate the destruction of these lives.
But I've heard women who've had abortion, and particularly pro-abortion activists, they will say that if you are feeling shame or in need of healing, it's because of the stigma of abortion. And so if we just destigmatize abortion, and if Christians didn't have this view that abortion was wrong and we didn't, feel that as a society, then women could just have abortions like any other kind of healthcare, and there would be great freedom in that. Do you feel like your pain and guilt that you've experienced is because of other people's judgment and shame?
I think the conviction I had that the abortion was a wrong, a very deep, inherent wrong, was because I know science.
Yeah.
I know basic biology that tells us from the moment of fertilization there is a unique life, human life that begins. And so I knew that 12 weeks down the track, when my baby's heart was beating and my baby had little fingers and little toes, that when I chose to have that abortion, that procedure, I was choosing to destroy an innocent, unique, precious human life. And that is why I believe abortion is wrong. And that's why I believe women feel shame. And it's not because of any religious or misunderstanding of women's healthcare or reproductive rights. It's because murder is wrong. It's always wrong. And we've started to pervert the language and use such deceptive terminology to try and hide or water down. It's such a simple truth. It is so simple. If that is when human life begins, then the destruction of that life at any point from that moment is murder by definition. And I think we want to dress it up. And I think these people that are pro-abortion want people to forget that basic, simple biological truth. I think they might have a worldview that says that murder isn't wrong. They must, if they can advocate for it. I mean, I had a worldview growing up that was murder was wrong, but I chose it anyway because when push came to shove, my babies at the time were in the way of my own path.
So you use very strong language to describe abortion. I've heard you say, I killed my baby. Murder is wrong. Abortion is murder. Do you think that helps with the healing? So there'll be lots of women listening who have had abortion, and the research shows that if you've had an abortion, you're at a much higher risk of suicide, anxiety, depression, self-harm. You became a drug addict. Do you think it's helpful for women who have had abortions to acknowledge the truth of it, that they killed their own child?
I think, first off, I probably don't speak in enough detail of just how paralysing and debilitating and traumatising those abortions were to me. You know, the manifestation outwardly was a drug addiction, but I also attempted suicide. I also got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of those abortions. I had horrific nightmares, panic attacks when a baby cried. It was all-consuming, and that I'm reminded to never downplay that, because I think a majority of women who have had abortions are in that space to some degree, and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. And my desire when I speak so strongly is to cut through the deceptive terminology and the deceptive narrative from the pro-abortion camp and to free the women that are still trapped in the degree of that trauma and pain, and needing somebody to just call it for what it is. I think it's so important that we just, facts are facts, and then we can talk about the emotions and the psychological and emotional and spiritual impacts separately. But once we establish what abortion is, just by definition, the dictionary says, it's the termination of a pregnancy resulting in the death of an embryo or fetus, which means it's the purposeful procedure to kill an innocent human being in the womb.
And now I need the tissues. See you later. Bye.